Hello and welcome to CIO Leadership Live New Zealand. I'm Kathy O'Sullivan, Editor-in-Chief for CIO in APAC. And my guest today is Wayne Broekhuis, Executive Leader, Information Technology at Tonkin & Taylor. Hello, Wayne. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thanks, Kathy.
Excellent. Great to have you. Hope it's not too much of a chilly start in Christchurch today.
Oh, it's only -2 degrees, so
yeah,
what's it like in Auckland?
Absolutely. So for those who don't know much about Tonkin & Taylor, can you give us an overview of your organization and what your team does there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tonkin & Taylor is an organization that's been around 60 years. And it's a geological organization that has a number of facets to it. So basically, the way I like to explain is it's anything that's below the ground or above the ground we work in. So we look after the environment. We also look after areas such as geotechnical, water, hydrology, and that sort of thing. Environmental is really important to Tonkin & Taylor and its employees. And I look after the technology team within Tonkin & Taylor.
So tell us a bit more about your career journey. What attracted you to IT? How did you get your start? And I guess, how did you ultimately end up as a CIO?
I've always had a fascination of how things work. When I was 5, I had a traffic cop car which had lights in it. I just stopped working one day. And I thought, I wonder how this works. So I pulled it apart, took the LEDs out of it, and I plugged them straight into a 240 power socket, thinking this was as good as a power source as any, and promptly turned it on. Bang, I got thrown across the room and was lucky to still survive, really. But I'm hooked on technology and the why. This is where I sort of started to transition into the technology sector, and I got really interested in customer service, where I really like to help people. And I worked in the help desk originally, and I moved through to system engineering. And I felt that I needed to make a serious change and influence. And then from then on, I became a leader in technology, and to where I am now, sort of 14 plus years later, and I sit with you today.
Wow, and starting out at, on that IT desk, I'm sure you learned a lot, and have an appreciation for that IT help desk as well. That's so fundamental. So obviously, transformation is a huge part of what you and your team do at Tonkin & Taylor, especially with, our ever-changing environment. So can you tell us a bit more about some of the big projects that you and the team have been working on in recent years?
Yeah, to be fair, I've been in Tonkin & Taylor for the last year and a bit. However, in that last year, I've developed a comprehensive technology strategy aligned to the 2025 business goals. So we've got sort of 3 key areas that we're looking at, which is to improve the customer experience for our clients and our people, to ease their way of working, to get our house in order with respect to information security, and also to implement a comprehensive data strategy. But during that time, we fostered a culture to empower to deliver through the service desk team and the infrastructure teams with respect to new things like ChatGPT. So we're really encouraging that sort of trending technology behavior. And also, it's also about building relationships across business, right? So we've also partnered to deliver great outcomes. In terms of projects, we've implemented greater governance around architecture and cybersecurity. So the T&T Group has greater involvement and investment in technology and reduce our business risk to reputational damage in case of that information loss. We also have been working to improve the safety of our people through a new health and safety wellbeing app, as well as upgrading our online learning portal to help our scientists, psychologists, and engineers in supporting staff. Their learning is really important in a very busy environment, as you can imagine. And also create, all of that together, we've provided greater insight for data analytics. So quite a little bit's been done in the last sort of year, but.
So lots going on there. You're obviously keeping yourself very busy. And prior to joining Tonkin & Taylor, of course, you were at Ngāi Tahu. What have you learned, I guess, from working in these leadership roles over the last few years, especially around transformation and change? What do you think are some of the biggest challenges, and how do you get people on board with change when you're pushing through these big projects?
Yeah, it's a really big challenge, and both at Ngāi Tahu and at Tonkin & Taylor, it's about a cultural shift of doing things digitally. A lot of the staff tend to want to do things the way they've always done things, and so Throughout my career, I've always seen a need to have really good change management on a project and to assist people with resistance to change so that they should become advocates rather than, go against the system that you're trying to put in place. I think also with transformation, change requires a culture in the business. What's great about Tonka Taylor in particular, there's a lot of people that like to use technology. So it's about tapping into that entrepreneurial spirit that leads to great outcomes for our shareholders and the wider group. And we're also wary of change fatigue in a fast-paced environment. So as you know, we live in a world with AI, which is really coming to the fore, and it's about how we manage to be competitive in the market while ensuring our staff also don't get overwhelmed. So these are all sorts of things I think about when we work through with transformational change.
So tackling the impacts of climate change is obviously something Tonkin and Taylor pays particular attention to. You deal with the impact of our changing environment. You mentioned earlier that, you're really focused on everything above the ground and below the ground. But when it comes to IT, what's your approach when it comes to integrating sustainability practices in our principles into your IT strategy?
This is something that we're very passionate about. We're always looking at ways to improve things from a sustainable footprint. For example, one of our biggest challenges at the moment is data grows for IoT and this sort of technology that we need to be able to provide greater information to make decisions for our clients. There's a sustainable footprint as that data grows in a hybrid cloud world. So how do we, as it consumes energy and to create and maintain it? So how do we manage this growing need for data with that sustainable platform? So that is something that we're constantly working on and looking about how we can improve on that. But the team is also tuning their heads to how we can reduce the tonnage going into landfill. So, for example, all our devices now, when they come to end of life, they're repurposed or recycled through a third party. We've also completed automation of laptop builds when can buy the equipment anywhere in the world that staff member might be, and we've built to the standard that they need so they can use that device. And so we also actively work with our scientists and engineers and ecologists in those areas such as Napier and that sort of thing, and how we can use digital ways and means to reduce the impact on the environment. So it is a bit of a continuous journey, Kathy, and it's something that we continue to work on to lift our game.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you're making good inroads there with some of those initiatives. So what's important to you, Wayne, when you're looking for partners on some of these projects or initiatives that you're working on? What provides value to you when you're looking to work with partners?
Clear communication is crucial. Clear articulation of expectations, timelines, and roles prevents any misunderstanding. A clear vision. Our partners need to have a common understanding of what we seek to achieve and the desired outcomes. And also, it's about building a foundation of mutual trust and respect. It's really essential. We rely on our partners for their expertise, and they rely on us to set the expectations. So if we can have that level of mutual trust and respect, that sits highly with for me in terms of our partnership. Also, having that flexibility and that depth as projects evolve and unforeseen challenges arise. We've got to be able to have that ability to navigate through those changes. That is really essential to our partnership. And lastly, conflict resolution. Conflict's inevitable with any relationship, so it's ensuring that we deal with these early in a constructive or respectful manner. Like same could be said about marriage.
Absolutely. Sounds like, definitely some key things to think about for a good working relationship, isn't it? That flexibility. And as you say, sometimes conflict does happen and how you resolve it. So broadening it out then, can you tell us a bit more about how, as you know, in your role, in what ways do you collaborate and influence with the wider organization and the leadership team?
Sure. Strategic alignment is really important. So I work closely with the organizational leadership team to understand their objectives and challenges. And it's really important from an IT perspective that our strategies align with those goals so we can actually deliver directly and contribute to Tonkin Taylor's success. I think also regular communication. So just making sure we have those open lines of communication with the leadership team, provide updates on projects, for example, highlight achievements, addressing concerns, what have we done well, and that sort of thing. Just recently, I actually led a group functions where we were talking about achievements, and one of the things that we talked about was our staff being married and a couple of staff also having babies. We have a really good open-minded communication. It's not just a technical thing, but it's also that wider leadership. And also just around that change management, I lead change management efforts by making sure that the leadership team understand the rationale behind technology changes, addressing concerns, and ensuring a smooth transition for our employees. Also, innovation advocacy. So it's by showing innovation by proposing ideas that leverage technology to improve processes and products and services. That really shows benefits and risks to the leadership, so they can actually feel like we're making informed decisions around these things. Well, and also for me in particular, continuous learning, staying up to date with industry trends and best practices, helps me to able to bring fresh perspectives to the leadership.
Absolutely. So look, Wayne, technology was brought into sharp focus during the pandemic for many organizations. Do you think the role of CIO has changed since those days?
Well, leaders and organizations have seen a need for the acceleration of the digital technologies across industries. CIOs have to rapidly deploy remote work solutions with the pandemic and shift to more online experiences. With that accelerated use comes the need to provide greater scalability or flexibility through cloud and the protection of data through cybersecurity. We also need to contribute to the well-being of our staff by ensuring technology is as seamless and as usable as possible. With the pace of change, the role of the CIO role needs to adapt to making quick decisions and fostering innovation in an era of uncertainty. So I think there's a real shift in terms of the way we think nowadays. And if anything, we're going to think faster and make more rapid decisions.
So just on that then, I guess, what do you think are some of, the key attributes of a successful modern day CIO when it comes to leadership, given all those things that you've mentioned around, the changes and expectations? What are some of those key attributes of a modern day CIO?
Strong business acumen, an understanding of business operations, market dynamics, customer needs is essential to deliver great client outcomes. Strategic vision, one that can align our technology initiatives with the overall business objectives is really important. Be a change agent and being in the shoes of their customer is really important. An innovation champion, we need to be able to challenge the status quo. I think that's really important for a successful CIO today. And results orientated, to set measurable goals and track progress, it's the technology that overall contribute to the success of the organization. So that's a big key.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you mentioned earlier, you touched on a little bit about the Tonkin and Taylor culture, but I'd love to dig more into that. It is an employee-owned organization. Does that change the dynamic of it when it comes to company culture? And, can you tell us a bit more about how you're creating that good internal culture that helps people feel like they're growing and thriving?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because, as you probably are aware, Tonkin and Taylor is a shareholder organisation. So there are some employees in the organisation that have a financial investment in what gets done, as well as a cultural wanting to be part of a great organisation. And so there is also, I guess, a bit of a walk in the fine line between providing a great culture and an environment that we can thrive in, but also aware that some of my staff, for example, are shareholders. And so there's an element of them being my customer, making sure that we deliver the things that they're actually really looking to see and deliver on. In terms of my team in particular, in terms of their careers, that's really important to me. I want to make sure how best I get them where they want to go, where they see themselves being. Some of my team have very liberal degrees of mastery in the area, so I coach them all the years where we both agree and that need development and assist with that. And I'm a big fan of just-in-time learning, so whether it's learning on the job or getting technical training, for example, making sure they have the tools so they can remove those blocks and be empowered to deliver, which is ultimately important to TNT as our culture.
I love that. Just in time learning, definitely one for the books that people should pay attention to. So look, another key factor when it comes to a successful team is obviously the more diverse your team is, the greater chance it has of thriving. So can you tell us a bit more about your approach to diversity? What practical things do you think can be done to attract more people from different ways of thinking, different backgrounds into IT? What are you looking at Tonkin Taylor?
It's actually something I'm really keen to drive move forward. Actually, just a couple of days ago, I think Māori population in technology is under 5% and has been like that for the last 5 years. So there's a great opportunity in terms of Tonkin Taylor to get more internship, especially in technology with respect to Māori and Pacifica, to try and raise the bar there. And I think there's a great opportunity for us as a business to bring in more of those people. But in terms of diversity within our current team, we have a wide, diverse group of people across the team and from all walks of life and within the world. And because we have the Rainbow Tick, we fully endorse and allow people to come from all walks of life. I think no matter what their binary is, more welcome to work with the technology team.
So how are you approaching diversity then? What practical things do you think can be done to get more people from different backgrounds into IT roles in general, not just at Tonkin and Taylor? Are there any other things that can be done to encourage more people into IT?
Definitely need to be spending more time as leaders within the universities, and I think even going down to secondary school level. Spending time there and getting them to understand what's possible, what could they do. My previous experience at Ngāi Tahu showed that a lot of people, and Māoris especially, don't necessarily feel they all have the confidence that they could actually do those roles. And so need to be aware that when you come into technologies, it doesn't always have to be that traditional way, coming up to the service desk, which is what I did, but there's a number of ways now that you can come into the technology sector, whether it's in process mapping or looking at artificial intelligence. Those sorts of things are really good entry levels for the technology sector. So if we can have all leaders like ourselves working those areas to try and get those people to feel the confidence they can actually do this and assist with internships and cadetships.
So Wayne, we're all a work in progress. Many of us have made mistakes in our career, but it is what you learn from them that ultimately is key. So what have been some of the mistakes that have impacted you, but in a positive way, that you've learned a lot from?
Well, one of the biggest things that I've learned in my career very early in my career in project management is around not considering change. So I think when you're young, you're a bit naive and you hope that everyone will do everything that you expect them to do in terms of something that you're trying to put in, something you're trying to transition to. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned in that time is that you've got to consider culture, so cultural impacts, especially with across projects, across countries, and the impact on those people, the impact in terms of their input into things as well. So it was a big lesson for me very early on in the day that change management is very important to me in terms of making sure that people are on the journey and that we manage resistance, and we've got people that are very supportive and aware of what's being done and the why, they're understand the why, so therefore they feel like they're actually part of the process and can take it forward.
And do you have any other advice for anyone who is aspiring to be an IT leader, who may be early on in their journey and is thinking about their next steps?
I think it's really important that you listen to what people have to say. So we always don't like has this thing, two ears, one mouth. So it's really important to listen. And so what as a CIO, if you want to become a CIO, listen to what other people have to say. You can see other people in the CIO industry come from all walks of life. Some come from financial sector, some come from a technical background like myself, and some come from that Asian background. A number of ways to come into this type of role. So, if you want to move into this sort of space, it's being open-minded, having well-rounded thought leadership across the various strategies such as applications, infrastructure, cybersecurity, and where do you want to take someone, and where do you want to take the business, and being that true conduit between technology and what the business outcomes and objectives are.
Absolutely. So finally then, Wayne, what's important to you in the months ahead?
Yeah, we've got a lot on our plate at the moment. There's a lot of projects that are coming up that we're driving change. So continue to do that. That's my modus operandi at the moment for my team. Also, and certainly with the government change, I think it's going to have a little bit of influence from a company sense. And so just being aware of those other external factors that might influence our strategy and in terms of delivery of it. Apart from that, pretty excited about the future ahead.
Indeed. Wayne Brookhouse, Executive Leader for Information Technology at Tonkin & Taylor. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Gilby.